Nothing beats a good cigar and some peace and fucking quiet.
Nothing
Oh,
beats.
you are here. That's a shame.
Nothing beats reading the comments from your adoring fans.
I tell you,
on Instagram.
you know, they keep saying that social media is unhealthy because people just spend all their time just scroll holing down there. But have they thought about the upside for the people around the person who's scroll holing, which is that they shut the fuck up? That, to me, I think we need a government grant to be able to study the positive mental health effects of making the stupid half of the population shut the fuck up. I think that's with social media. I think that is worthy of a doctoral degree. There you go. Have a drink, everybody. It's on me.
Oh, yeah? Well, I'll tell you what. I am going to China in a couple of weeks.
You're going to China? Wow.
China. And in China, I'm going to a city called Chongqing.
Okay, so now it sounds like you're doing like, oh, did you hear about the Chinese electronics repair shop called Something Wong? Like that's it sounds a lot like you're making this up.
I'm definitely not trying to be an asshole, but you
don't have to try. You do it naturally. There's no effort required.
I know. No, this is the cyberpunk city, and this is where all those crazy Chinese TikTokers all just stand on like a riverbank, and that's it. They just stare at their phones for hours, and there's just like a sea of them. I can't wait. Yeah. Have you not seen this?
Why? No. What's why?
So basically, it's where they all go, like Chinese TikTokers go to do their streaming, and they just do the most crazy streams, and they stay on as long as possible. That's how they make money. So
they're just literally just streaming live, and they're all just standing around the same riverbank.
I'll see if I can find a video on it. Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. So,
that does not sound fascinating.
No, I mean fascinating from a purely like fly on the wall social media streamers. Yeah, so I'm keen to see that in real life because it's just going to be like so surreal.
Okay. How many layers of gosh, what was that TV show where the guy was the TV show where they had all the cameras pointed at him from when he was born?
Truman Show.
Truman Show. How many layers of Truman Show are we in that you're going to go there to like do social media content about people who go there to do social media content? I'm starting to get a little bit worried about you, Carly.
I know.
Actually, that's not true. I'm looking forward to getting rid of you, Carly. I think that was the more accurate sentence.
Do you reckon I'll get in any trouble in China? Do you reckon they're going to be nice
look,
to me?
You have never said anything that could possibly be used against you in an immigration and customs enforcement office in China. I think you should go. And in fact, you know what? I'm going to get in touch with the Chinese before you arrive, just to let them know that you're completely cool. That'll help for sure.
I've been to China twice, so I have 2 Chinese visa things in my passport. So that should get me like, sweet.
That'll probably help.
It'll help.
So
but no,
why are you actually going? You're not going to China for the purpose of standing on a riverbank doing Instagram posts about people who are doing TikToks.
No, I'm going there to go to the Canton Fair. Firstly, for you to find some new suppliers.
Canton Fair is awesome.
Yes,
I've been once. I will almost certainly never get to go again because I'm not going to go back to China. I think at this point it is a little too risky for me. But I will tell you, there is nothing that like Jeff Shed. If you've been to Jeff Shed in Victoria, the new exhibition center where they do the car shows and stuff, that pales in that is perhaps 1/6, and it might even be less. It might be more like 1/8 of this of the Canton Fair, and it is just wall to wall apparel, shoes, merchandising items. Just it's insane.
Yeah, it's going to be epic. It's 5 days of that, so yeah, I'll be getting my steps up. And then I am also going there for reconnaissance for chicken in the noodle aisle. So I'm going to the core of where all of our
there are noodle aisles a lot closer than Guangzhou, right? Like, if you want to check out Noodle Isles, there's quite a few in Australia. No airfares required, just a couple of tanks of. Oh, that's actually true. That's really expensive. Maybe flying's cheaper.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm wondering. Yeah. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I've got a long list of things to do, and then I thought I'd go to Chongqing. Am I saying it wrong? I don't even know how to say it.
There you go, being racist again.
Yeah, because I was like, well, I'm here, may as well go. I really like, China government aside, there are so many amazing things in China I would love to see, but it is such a huge country. I wondered, I thought, oh, you know what? Can I just nip over to Beijing so I can go to the Great Wall? No, you
No.
can't just nip over to Beijing, Carly. It's ginormous.
No one nips over to Beijing.
And then that area where Avatar was based on, all the limestone island things.
Yeah.
I'd love to go there too.
China is a big place, and as soon as you want to go somewhere where there isn't a bullet train, you need to allow a lot of time to travel, because in the populated areas, there's traffic, and in the non-populated areas, there's vast distances and not always excellent infrastructure. It's actually, to be honest, as a country, they've got remarkably decent infrastructure in a lot of places, but they also have genuinely remote areas. They've got parts that are probably not as remote as the middle of Australia, just because they've got so many more people, but vast distances on very poor roads, lots of areas with no electricity. It's a huge place.
Did we start on tangent time? Yes, we did.
Maybe. But I can't help but notice, Carly, that you haven't asked me why I'm celebrating. Here I am with actually the largest cigar in my collection. It is a Perdomo 10th anniversary champagne, for those who are interested, and sipping on some whiskey. And you've inquired naught. You've inquired zip. You've inquired zilch as to why I am in such a celebratory mood.
Celebrative? Are you suffering under the false illusion that I actually care about you in any capacity, including why you might be happy?
Look, this was in the terms and conditions of your contract. You have to pretend to give a shit. This doesn't work.
Just have to pretend to be nice.
This doesn't. If you're actually honest and show how little you care about me or the audience or anything or anyone, this doesn't work. So can we just back up a little bit? Hey, Carly, guess what?
Why are you so happy today, Topher?
Did you know that it's the first birthday, the first anniversary of when I formally launched the Topher project?
No way. That's crazy.
I know, right?
Oh, wow.
Who knew time flies? And that's why I'm having a cigar. Thanks for asking. And it's Bunnahabhain, 12-year Bunnahabhain, for those that are interested. And I just thought it was worth celebrating. And you know how else I'm celebrating, Carly?
Could it be this?
Oh, wow. It's almost like you knew. Almost like you knew.
How could I know? How could I have ever known this? It's
not like you've been doing the graphics and stuff for the birthday party or the birthday giveaway.
Do you know what I love about this is you were like, oh, the one on my mobile phone is like in a circle and it goes like that. Yeah. Have you seen that?
I wasn't sure if that was like a template thing, because on the website, they're horizontal. If you load up topherfield.com and you go to the shop, then you'll see on your computer, the words giveaway are horizontal and they move. And if you do it on your phone, you'll see that they are circular, like what you're witnessing on your screen right now. I just thought, well, maybe that's like a function of a template that you just stuck some words in or something. But no, apparently I was supposed to be a mind reader and figure out that you had done it all custom that way yourself.
Yes, that's how I do it. That's why you pay me the big bucks. Or do you?
Well, that's why I keep telling you that I'm gonna pay you the big bucks.
Yeah. I'm still waiting.
It's in the mail. The check is in the mail. It's a shame that the mailman went on strike. But
do you want to talk about this?
I think we should. We'll do it probably 2 or 3 times over the course of the evening, because I think it's a pretty big deal. That's me popping up out of a cake, apparently, with cake on my shirt and on my hands, and some whiskey. So well done, Carly. You know me well. I will say, though, it's been a very long time since I have put a party whistle thing in my lips instead of one of these. But you can't have everything, I guess. It's my birthday and I'm giving away the presents. So we have a Topher project giveaway. Total prize value more than $2,000. And this is completely free. There's no entry fee. There's no nothing. The first prize, drum roll, please. Well, let's start with the least impressive stuff first. There is a couple of $100 worth of Topher merch. So that'll include a hoodie. It'll include a couple of t-shirts and a couple of other things that that's valued at about $300 odd. Then there is a seat at my Getting Your Head in the Game masterclass for 2026. That's valued at a couple of $100. Now that we're out of the early bird pricing, actually more than that. But actually the good stuff, the stuff that people are going to want to hear about, is there is a $250 Carlz or Woolies, your choice, food voucher or groceries voucher that you can spend on whatever it is that you need. Because, hey, let's be honest, cost of living is a problem. And there is also a fuel voucher, either BP or Shell, your choice, that is worth enough to get you about a quarter of a tank of petrol, otherwise known as $250, as the case may be. So there's $500 worth of vouchers between the groceries and the fuel. This is for the first prize winner. $500 worth of vouchers and about another $700 worth of other Topher merch and material. So how do you enter? Well, you go to topherfield.com and you click on the shop button, and it takes you to a page where you will see how to enter. All you got to do is be on my mailing list, my email list. So like super simple, not that hard. Anyone who's already on the email list, you are already in the running. So everyone in the email list is going to be in the running. You'll be a part of the draw. So obviously, if you're not yet on my email list, you're going to want to change that, because that is over $1,000 value just for first prize. And then there'll be a second and a third prize as well. That'll be just some merch and that sort of stuff, a little bit of feel-good stuff. Carly tried to tell me that I needed to give away $1,000 in vouchers. And I said, Carly, we're trying to help other people get out of poverty, not put me into it. So we had to curb your enthusiasm a little bit. Yeah, well, you did initially say $1 million, but I was like, yeah. So yeah, it's I wanted to do more, but that's what I could do and I could justify. And it's my way of saying thank you, because the last year has been really amazing and I didn't expect it to go as well as it has. And it's gone as well as it has because of you guys. People watching, people liking, people commenting, people following, people tuning in for the next one. The Oddcast itself has gone fabulously well, but also just all of my Topher project stuff. So thank you to you guys. That's my way of saying thank you.
We hit over 5K last week, which is very exciting.
Yes. The Oddcast has over 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. Congratulations, Carly.
Thank you. But can I just show you how much fun I have when I'm making your things? Because I don't even have to tempt AI, and it does it for me.
Oh, shirtless?
What? I didn't ask it to do that.
it can just read your fantasies, Carly. It's just reading your mind. It's like it just knows what it is that you think about.
I was so close to using it.
I got to say, I'm not a big fan of the pearl necklace look that it's given me. That does bring up some other connotations.
That's what's also funny. Shit. I have way too much fun.
No one is drunk enough for this, Stortle. No one is drunk enough.
Do you know what, guys? I think you need a drink.
As well, Nate. That is the first thing I saw.
I think you guys need a drink because we're going to get into it.
Oh, goodness.
I need a drink just to be out. I need to start drinking alcohol so I can get through this war in Iran situation.
We're going to start
there, I can't make head from tails. Well, I mean, no, let's start with more important stuff. Let's start with really important stuff.
I'm feeling better about Iran now than I was last week, but we'll get there. Let's get there a little bit later in the episode.
We'll start with some very important stuff. I'm going to share this. Can you tell who these two lovely individuals might be?
I would say that is a very hot pop star and her girlfriend going for a romantic stroll in the evening.
I mean, pretty close. Yeah. I mean, the only thing is,
just judging by the hip movement inside those jeans, that's got to be a chick.
So it's none other than Mr.
Oh, so
Castro Jr. himself.
yeah, it's exactly what I said. Yeah.
So the ex-Canadian PM is now dating pop star Katy Perry, and they are at Coachella, no less, and he's living that influencer life and just enjoying all of the spoils of a very capitalist world in LA. Are they in LA or are they in Arizona? I don't know where Coachella is. Somewhere hot and deserty.
I'm not trying to start nothing. I'm not trying to start nothing. But is that a backwards baseball cap?
It is.
I never want to hear again from anyone left wing about leaders behaving in a like an unpresidential, unbecoming manner. Yes, I know he's the former, right? Okay, I get it. He's walking around in a white t-shirt and a backwards. He's basically trying to relive when he was a 17-year-old and using fake ID to get into bars.
It's pretty tragic, to be honest. And yeah, so they're all over the Instagrams. Katy Perry, is that a ciggy behind her ear? What are you, like? You freaking try hard. Oh Lord.
What was that about a vape? I swear I was reading the words. I promise.
It says.
What?
Hang on. Oh wait, what's going on? It says, "Please do not give me a rip of your vape, no matter what I ask or what I say."
Okay. Okay, that's a very strange shirt to wear, but all right.
Oh God, these celebrities. I tell you what.
Is that Mr. Meth himself?
Meth? That is Justin Bieber. We're not going to be mean to Bieber in this.
Well, okay, fine.
I'll make you watch a reel.
Adverse.
If you push me, I will make you watch a reel. I will make you do it.
I can cope. I can cope. I'm drinking tonight.
All right, we're doing it.
I can cope with the reel.
We're doing it. All right. So, do you know anything about Coachella?
I've heard the name. Honestly, I think it's a music festival, but I only think that because of something you said just before the show. I genuinely, the depth with which I do not care. There are no words in the English language, but please enlighten me.
So it is a music festival. It used to be really epic. Not that I've ever been, to be fair. I am allergic to music festivals. The idea of people and porta potties, like, I mean, I don't even I don't even need to go there. Right? 100%. But it's one of those places where, you know, people used to go to see the headliners and whatever, and it's become just this influencer thoroughfare of just gross, over the top, vacuous kind of content. And Justin Bieber was playing, and we've talked about him a little bit in earlier episodes when
he doesn't play often anymore.
No, he doesn't. I don't know him, obviously. I've never spoken to Justin Bieber, but, you know, by all accounts, he's had a pretty rough time. And he was invited to play Coachella. He was one of the headliners, and he had to back up after Sabrina Carpenter, who we've also spoken about before. She's that little tiny pop star that had the photo on her cover.
She did the raunchy cover. Yeah.
Yeah, the man's holding her hair, and it looks like she's giving him the old.
Yeah.
And so she had like the massive over the top production, right? Like dancers and like she turned it into like a Hollywood set. And then Justin Bieber comes out, and it's just him, a laptop, and he plugs the laptop in, and he's literally behind him playing the videos that made him famous, right? Like when he was a kid, when he was like little. And he's duetting with his young self. And it was the most beautiful thing, right? Because I grew up watching Justin Bieber, and I thought to myself, I'm like, what a perfect way to show up to Coachella, where everyone is there for like the over-the-top production, all of the content, everything's overly commoditized, everything's over the top. And there he is, just literally back where it started. And of course, he's been roasted. He's lazy. He didn't even try. It was a terrible set. And I thought it was a really interesting cultural moment. I actually thought it was really, really good. So do you want to watch the reel?
His story has become a bit of a tragic one.
No, because he's come out of it. Britney Spears never did. So he seems to be like, you know, coming out.
See, No, see, I don't think he's ever going to come back to touring and so forth the way that he did. He
Oh,
had
no.
what, in my opinion, was a vaccine injury. They'll swear
Oh, the
black
Bell
and blue. It's
palsy.
not what it was. No, it was not actually Bell's palsy. It's a different thing that has similar symptoms. It's often confused with Bell's palsy. I can't think of the name of it, but it's a viral infection. But they said, oh no, all you anti-vaxxers are you're obviously wrong. This isn't a reaction to the vaccine. This is this particular viral infection. However, there are studies showing that one of the known adverse reactions to these mRNA jabs is that it can cause, if you already have these viruses, because we have a lot of viruses in our bodies, all of us do, that are dormant, they're latent, our immune system is keeping them suppressed. And under the wrong circumstances, they can become massive problems. That's exactly what happens with this particular one. I didn't know we were going to talk about this, so I haven't refreshed myself on the details. But he had what I consider to be a pretty open and shut case of a vaccine injury. Now, he was, of course, helping to push the vaccines and all the rest of it. So I don't have massive sympathy on the one hand. On the other hand, none of those people deserved that. They trusted the wrong people that should have been able to be trusted. And their crime was that they trusted those people. But he's lost billions in revenues, in touring, in sponsorship and brand endorsements. I mean, he has lost an enormous amount of money and opportunity and all kinds of things. And so, to my mind, for him to show up to Coachella at all, my understanding of his physical condition is such that it will take him a very long time physically to recover energy-wise, just back from being on stage one time. And so he's made the choice. He said, okay, I'm going to go and do that. And he's decided to show up in that way. I think for him, there would be a lot of nostalgia attached to that early work, the pre-injury work.
Yeah.
I think for him, that would be a deeply, deeply meaningful personal moment. And I think in his
Guillain-Barré
case,
syndrome. That's what
yeah,
Lynette said. Guillain-Barré
yeah.
syndrome.
And I think if my memory, I'm reaching back into my memory, but if my memory is serving me correctly, this is a viral infection that lots of us sort of have sitting latent, and it flares up under the wrong conditions. And the mRNA jabs are known to, one of the side effects is that it creates those wrong conditions.
All
Yeah,
good
look,
news then.
I'm kind of on your side with that. I think that's kind of a beautiful thing to do. And it's a shame that it was received the way it was.
Yeah, and I thought that too, but it's one of those moments where, like, I know I keep talking about chicken in the noodle aisle, drink, but
Hey,
in all of my studying of this and looking at where we're at culturally, right? Like where everyone's at mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, I think there's a lot of people who feel this emptiness. They just don't know how to anchor themselves or to connect it to. And a big part of what that used to be was music. There was an outlet, right?
yeah,
I don't feel like we have that anymore. I mean, COVID robbed us of it for 2 years, and I don't think it ever kind of came back. I mean, a lot of things are sanitized now. A lot of things, because of safety precautions, regulations, you can't do anything, you can't have any fun anymore.
yeah,
And those cultural changes have caused people to feel, incredibly apathetic, lonely, isolated, all the things. And then seeing a moment like that where he was just singing and everyone knew the words, it was sort of like that wasn't made for social media. That was made for the
yeah,
people who were there in front of him. And
yeah,
half the culture's like, this is crap, because they're watching it through Instagram, and the people who are there are probably like, wow, this is the most amazing thing ever. So
yeah. Yeah, and the commoditization of all of these things, Woodstock, the Woodstock that went massive, was it 69? I think 67, 69, one of those ones. People then tried to recreate that moment, and they always failed spectacularly.
they did one in Sunbury, for God's sakes, literally.
Yeah. And something arises out of an organic desire for a thing, and it's beautiful, and then everyone tries to either capture that moment, capture that lightning in a bottle, don't let it change, hold it right where it is, which is of course impossible, or they try and recreate it, or jump on the bandwagon, commoditize, monetize, and ultimately ruin everything. And I say that as a capitalist, I've got no problem with monetization, but I think each of us needs to make some choices about, okay, actually, I'm going to protect that one thing in my life. I'm not going to try and monetize or commoditize that. And yeah, something like Coachella, I don't know. I have no desire. The only one that I would be curious to see is Burning Man.
Oh, really? That interests you?
Look, honestly, I think for me it would be a case of dip in, spend a night or 2 nights there, dip out again. I don't think I could do the whole thing. But there's a strong libertarian streak within it. There's also some really disgusting stuff and satanic stuff in it as well. But as a cultural phenomenon, I know a lot of people that have gone, and they're very different people. These are wildly different people. And they've all gone to Burning Man, and they've had very different experiences there. And I just kind of want to make a documentary in my mind. I don't want to have a camera with me. I just want to walk around and create a kaleidoscope in my mind of this collision of people that happens at Burning Man. I think that would be the one that would interest me.
Burning Man kind of reminds me of like Mad Max. That's what I think about. But
oh no.
I'm not a music festival girl. I've been to 2 and never again. I did the old Pyramid Rock Festival in like 2008, I think it was.
Yeah.
It was on the back of, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was Lindsay Fox's property, and it was like on the back of Phillip Island. And
actually, that does ring a bell. I've never been, but that does ring a bell. Yes, I think that's correct.
The wind coming through was like, it was like you were standing on Antarctica. It was so miserable. Never again.
Having done multiple track days on the motorbike at Phillip Island, I can tell you on the wrong day, that is savage.
So I'm going to play you. I'm pretty sure we'll probably get clipped for this, but whatever.
I tried really hard to turn the conversation in a different direction so that Carly would forget about her reel.
Not real. This is not real. This is just a performance. Relax. All right. So I'm going to show you. So you need to see this before I play the reel. All right. Let me play this again. Hang on. And there we go.
I said now I do the thing I told you that I never would have told you even when I knew I never would have told you I find nobody else as good as you. I need you to get drunk, wake up, I'm wasted.
You can see there's nothing there. It's just a stage, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll probably get in trouble for playing that whole thing.
Yeah, we'll get done for copyright just for that much, yeah.
But this is so he got that was Kid Laroi singing there, but so he got absolutely roasted. And I think, you guys wonder why I bring up the culture stuff. I think this is why people are so desperately unhappy. I mean, there's all that stuff that came out of Canada last week. You saw all the MMI2QL.
Oh gosh,
P cat sat on a keyboard things, right?
The WTF BBQ, don't forget that at the end. That was so bad. I nearly did a cultural react reel about it, and I don't do that. Like that nearly pushed me over the edge into like a react. I managed. I had a Bex and a lie down in it, and the feeling went away. But I nearly did it.
Well, I mean, you look at how miserable people have become, and I honestly do feel like if people had something to connect to and something to pull them back into here, like in front of them. So that all being said. Let me bloody play this, would you?
Damn it. I was about to throw a red herring in front of you. Too late.
All right, hang on. Most criticized performance in Coachella history, and it might be one of the most important things any artist has done on stage in years. We have built a culture so perfectly manufactured that the most radical thing an artist can do on the biggest stage in music is just be human. So let's talk about it. Coachella gave us 2 headliners this year that couldn't be more different. Sabrina Carpenter built an entire Hollywood backlot on stage, complete with celebrity cameos, dancers dressed as poodles, and a giant Hollywood sign rebranded as Sabrina Wood. And credit where it's due, that is an enormous production. But the night after, Bieber walked out in a hoodie alone with no backup dancers, no set changes, no pyrotechnics, and pulled up his own childhood YouTube videos to duet with in front of 100,000 people. Predictably, the internet called it lazy because the moment went over their heads. Philosopher Kierkegaard wrote that the deepest form of despair is to be someone other than yourself. And we built an entire culture around that despair. Byung-Chul Han calls it the burnout society, this world of relentless self-optimization where everything, including the way we present ourselves, has been polished to the point of being unrecognizable. Sabrina Carpenter's set is the perfect expression of that machine. It's flawless, commoditized, and it's been through 17 chains of approval. While there's nothing wrong with spectacle for spectacle's sake is just soulless content for TikTok. What Bieber did was refuse to perform in the way that we've been trained to expect. He didn't give us a product, he gave us
a human, a boy who was uploaded to the internet before he could understand what that meant, who was chewed up by an industry that profited from his childhood, who lost years of his life to the consequences of that, and who sat on stage at Coachella and looked back at the kid he was before any of it happened. That is not laziness. That is the most radical thing you can do in a culture that demands you perform a version of yourself that doesn't exist. And for millennials, that landed somewhere where we didn't expect, because we remember. We remember burning CDs for people we loved. We remember calling the radio station to request a song. And we remember sitting in cars with our friends waiting for the top 30 countdown and losing our minds when our song came on. Music was almost religious. It was ours before it was content. The greatest live moments have always understood this. Metallica playing to over 1 million people in Russia after the fall of the Soviet Union, Jonathan Davis screaming, "Are you ready?" at Big Day Out, even Coldplay making an entire stadium hum in unison. Those moments were raw and carnal and completely unmanufactured. Bieber's laptop set was just as raw, just in a quiet register, a different frequency of the same honesty. We've made everything so optimized and so perfectly palatable that none of it lands anymore. We have focus grouped the soul out of culture, and the result is that we feel nothing. That is the real cost of the machine, not that it offends us, but that it numbs us. And somewhere in that numbness, a man sat on stage with a laptop and accidentally reminded 100,000 people what it feels like to be moved by something that wasn't designed to be filmed, clipped, and reposted, but it was designed to be felt.
Well, besides the fact that I've now just about finished my whiskey and I'm already blotto at the start of the evening, it's another good reel, Carly. But this is also a perfect segue for us to talk about someone we've never talked about before. And
But
when his
first
name
we
came
need
up,
to we need to acknowledge VN Bogan with a $160 super chat. VN Bogan,
wow.
Bogani, I have been very, very sad because you haven't been here, or I wasn't aware that you were here. So thank you for coming back, and thank you for the birthday gift.
Yeah. That's amazing. Thank you. So it's half for the show and half to go into the prize pool. All right. So does that need to go on top then? I think out of respect to what VN Bogani is doing, that goes on top of the prize pool.
Yeah.
So we're now doing like a $325 fuel voucher, which is like, that's like a third of a tank now. So that's an improvement.
Yeah. That might get you down the supermarket and back at this point.
You'd probably come back home with enough fuel to get back to the petrol station, I think.
Yeah, just enough.
If you've got a fuel efficient car. Like if you've got a Ford Ranger, forget it. Thank you. Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you.
Who's this person we haven't talked about?
Dan Bilzerian.
Oh.
And I am mad at you because you're the reason why I've been thinking about him. No, not in that way. You get your mind out of the gutter. But I have been thinking about him recently. And in fact, my internet history will betray me and tell you that I've been researching him. And I discovered actually something quite unexpected with him. Now, the anti-Semitism stuff, etc., that's another issue that we'll come to in a second. But let's go back a little bit. So Dan Bilzerian you put it to me this way, Carly, and I think it's pretty spot on. He was Andrew Tate before Andrew Tate was Andrew Tate. He was kind of the original dude, and he literally named it. He called it. He said, I am going to pursue hedonism. I'm just going to live for 10 years pursuing pleasure in the now, hedonistic pleasure without regard for consequence, without regard for planning, without regard for where it's going to leave me in the future. I'm just going to maximize pleasure now. He had, I think, over 17 million followers on Instagram. At his peak, he was literally famous for pursuing pleasure. He was a professional poker player, but honestly, that's not how he made his money. That was the sideshow that kind of justified
he made his money through his daddy's Ponzi scheme, but sure.
Yeah. And basically this is him surrounded by girls. Now, okay, he works out in the gym. He works pretty hard on that. Okay, fair play to him, right? But he plays up. He was the original one with the fast cars and the private planes and multiple women in, scantily, not the original. There have been others, you go back to the 70s and even before that, there were others. But he was the original in terms of the Instagram age, the social media age, where he monetized and weaponized this to create this persona around himself for the purpose of making other young men jealous. Ultimately, he was monetizing other young men. That's ultimately what he was actually doing, and women to a lesser degree. But he was monetizing young men. Other young men were looking at him going, oh, wow, I wish I could be him. I wish I could do that. That's what Andrew Tate does. That's what this whole sort of subculture does. what's really interesting, what I didn't know about him, because I'd written him off. I haven't paid attention to the Dan Bilzerian name in a very long time. After 10 years of doing that, you're not going to believe this, Carly. It's his the incredible insight. I think he deserves just like an honorary master's degree. Cheers, everybody.
You bring it up more than me.
Yeah, because I want to drink.
Okay.
Because he discovered that the wholehearted, reckless pursuit of pleasure leads to emptiness. I know, right? I know.
Who could have known?
I was as shocked as you are, Carly. Now, what's interesting is what he's done since. So it's only been a couple of years. He's had, or at least he's putting on that he's had. How true is it? I'm not sure. A little bit of like a Russell Brand kind of conversion experience. He's now monogamous. He's trying to find meaning outside of himself and outside of pleasure. He's realizing that in life you need to have deprivation. You need to have things that you're reaching for that you can't achieve. You need to have times where you're uncomfortable. He's made all these basic realizations. And also, he's running for politics. Now, you're the one that actually told, I didn't know. I mean, again, like I said, I've ignored this guy for the better part of 7 years now, probably since I last thought about him. Can you tell me, how did this news cross your path in the first place?
I have my finger on the pulse. No, so
on that pulse?
No, God, no. Look, so just quickly, I watched the Louis Theroux documentary, right? So I've been kind of like looking into this. Around the manosphere. And I watched it and I was just I just cringed. Like I suffer from really bad secondhand embarrassment. And so watching it, I just thought to myself, I'm like, oh, everyone's freaking out about the misogyny. Oh my God, like this is what all men are like. I'm like, no, these are fragile, broken little boys. And that's how it manifests. They are fragile, broken souls. And all I could think of is like, who did that to you? That's all it was. And I think I said to you,
100%.
as I was starting to investigate this and look into it more, I don't think it's anything to do with misogyny. I think that's how it manifests. And that's a very superficial way of like having the argument. What it is a complete abandonment of any value. You have nothing that anchors you. And this can be because we've sort of really moved away from religion and a lot of people don't know what to replace it with. And the left, the progressives particularly, have embraced hedonism. Whether it's the OnlyFans stuff, the porn stuff, over-sexualized stuff. And I think the manosphere is just a residual from that. I don't think it's got anything to do about these men hate women. They say it because they know it gets them the clicks, right? And we're in a attention commodity now. So Dan Bilzerian was kind of the first one to do it. And I just found him really repugnant. Like, oh, you're such a big man. Like, you've got all these girls. And I mean, there were so many deep dives on him. Apparently, he had this giant LA mansion. And was it Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary, and went to his property and chatted to him about it. And Dan Bilzerian didn't know any of the financials. And Kevin O'Leary basically called him out. He's like, you don't own this house, do you? Because you would know all this. He's like, oh, I'll just have to talk to my people. And it turned out that it was all fake anyway.
Yeah.
So,
but Andrew Tate plays out of the same playbook anyway. He goes to these castles that are on Airbnb. He rents it for a week, and he's like, "Oh no, this is totally my castle." Then when he gets called out, he's like, "No, this is entertainment. I'm selling the dream. I'm telling a story." And so they try
and that's all it is.
Maneuver.
And that's the thing. Like, I don't think any of these people. I don't even think Andrew Tate believes half the stuff he says, but it works. It makes him money. It gets attention. Bonnie Blue, same thing. We haven't talked about Bonnie Blue for ages, guys. Get one in.
Somebody call my doctor and let him know I'm on my way.
But yeah, it's the same thing, and this is my point. It manifests as this like hedonistic, reckless abandonment for your body. But what you're talking about are people who are so lonely, so fragile, and they don't know what to fill it with. And Bonnie Blue fills it with other things. But
yes, I did not realize that's where that was going. It's kind of all the same thing,
is it not? And so Russell Brand talks about this a lot. Have you read Russell's book?
I haven't, no.
So Russell talks about, because he was a full-blown heroin addict. Russell was he says he was a sex addict.
He's talked about the fact that he would travel with drugs shoved up his butt. because he wanted to have them with him, upon arrival. So he was literally smuggling his own drugs for personal use and would freely share those drugs with anybody else that wanted his butt drugs, and he would happily have other people's butt drugs if they were made available to him. He's not been shy about that. And just quickly, short order, I've put the link in the chat. So if you have a look now, you should find the link to that. Sorry.
If you watch Train Spotting, you'll know that once you get to a point where you're that desperate, you don't really care. But yeah, Russell Brand talks about it a lot, and he's like, because he was obviously married to Katy Perry, who now is dating Justin Trudeau. Katy Perry's still stuck in that machine. And Russell said that, like, Russell's clearly intelligent, right? He said that he knew what was happening. He was aware of it, and he participated because it felt good in the moment, but he always felt empty. There was always something that he couldn't fill that void. And that's why they numb themselves with the booze and the Coke and
So let's come back to the politics of Dan Bilzerian running in a moment, because I think there's some significant stuff in there. And you and I have chatted about this a little bit. I want to get to that. But I want to rewind for a second, because we talked about what is real masculinity before. Obviously, the manosphere, documentaries, Louis Theroux trying to push back against toxic masculinity. You've got things like looks maxing these days, which is kind of like the male version of becoming.
How do you know about that?
Because I've got my finger on a couple of pulses where it shouldn't be too. And you look at these guys and you're like, you are just the male version of women who try to make themselves look like a Barbie doll. Like you've got this stereotype in your mind, and you believe that if you can look like it, then you'll be it. Like this is like, it is the definition of superficiality. The problem, in my view, it's a crisis of meaning. Yes, we've got all these expressions for it. What does that mean? We were not made to live for ourselves. We know that we're going to die. We know that nothing lasts forever. Beauty doesn't last. Money doesn't last. Food doesn't last. Drugs don't last. Sex doesn't last. Everything comes to an end. And so if we live for those things, we know instinctively that we're living for nothing. It's actually, we are wired, men and women, we are wired to live for something other than ourselves. And this is core to our being. Now, I'm of the view that that is faith, and that is building the kingdom of God here on earth. That is relationship with Jesus Christ. That's my belief as to what that is. But fundamentally, if you want to be happy, don't try and make yourself happy. Find ways to make other people happy, and then enjoy their happiness. And you'll discover it for yourself. You're much more likely to discover it for yourself than you ever will if you were chasing your own happiness. And the way that I've put it before is healthy masculinity, in my view, is strength, because that is a fundamental masculine trait, strength in service. And some people have had it going, oh, women can be strong too. Yes, sure. I'm not saying they can't. But the underlying masculine is strength in service. So taking the male attributes, the testosterone, the muscle density, the courage, these various attributes, and finding a way to channel those towards the service of others. And I define femininity as softness in service. Now, can men be soft? Absolutely, they can. But softness is a foundationally feminine trait. But again, the in service is key. It's actually finding a way to channel that which God has given you, the traits that God has given you, into the service of others. That's actually where we find our happiness. Which brings me back to Dan Bilzerian, because he's now trying to find happiness, and he's realized that he's not going to find it at the bottom of a whiskey bottle. He's not going to find it at the top of a poker tournament. He's not going to find it on a yacht with just him and 100 women, because he's tried all of that, right? He's done everything you can think of, and a bunch of things you probably never would. He's tried them all. He knows that it's empty. Is his going into politics just another itch that he's trying to scratch? Is this him going, where am I, where now I know that I have to serve others. Now what how can I do? Oh, maybe if I go into politics, I can fix all the problems. Is this just like, is this an indication that he's healthy and he's on a positive track? Or is this actually just another expression of a desperate and aimless search?
I don't believe it for 1 second. And that's because he has called people fat Jews. He's dropped the N-word and all that sort of stuff.
He's an anti-Semitic pig. That's a given, yes.
Yeah. I don't think there's a whole lot to Dan Bilzerian. I think, and so to be clear, guys, when I sent this to Topher, my angle on this was that the podcast bros and the podcast sphere is actually to the detriment of getting good political policy in both America and here. The reason being, these people are all self-serving, right? So whether it's Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, like Trump went hard at them the other day, or it's people like Dan Bilzerian, there comes a point where you hit the zenith of your following or the peak of your social media clout. And then from there, it starts to fade because someone else pops up, right? So Dan Bilzerian was big like 10 years ago. And now he has to contend with Andrew Tate and Bonnie Blue and all those people. And as you'll see, if you map them out on a graph, they get more and more disturbing in their behavior, more and more outrageous. They have to. How else do they beat the person who came before them? So to see people like him coming into politics, I don't buy it for a second. I think this is just another way to get clout. I really do. Imagine him. So he's going for Congress in Florida. Imagine him going and working in the government building and showing up in DC. Can you see it? I can't. There's no way.
So he now lives in, is it Arizona?
I have no idea.
One of those. He doesn't live in Florida. So he grew up in Florida. And he's running in this 6th congressional district because he thinks it's a soft one. So he's running for the Republican nomination. So this is just an important detail for the political wonks out there. He is running for pre-selection to be the Republican candidate in the 6th district of Florida in I think it's in the presidential midterms. I think is what he's going for. Oh, sorry, the US federal midterms. And so he's not a candidate yet. He is competing in their pre-selection process to be a candidate. He's competing against the incumbent who hasn't been there for long. The previous incumbent at the last federal election stepped down. The new guy came in a by-election and he won. He's been endorsed by Donald Trump 3 times. Dan Bilzerian, like many of these people who are on that like hardcore crazy fringe, was a Trump supporter who's turned against Trump. Now, I'm not saying there aren't good reasons to be skeptical of Trump. I'm not saying you have to be a crazy fringe person to not like Trump right now. I'm just saying he's in the same basket as a lot of these, as your Candace Owens, as your Tucker Carlsons, and these people who, your what's his name? They're turning the frogs gay.
Alex Jones.
Gosh, Alex Jones. They were all on the Trump train for a long time, and they've all now gotten off. Dan Bilzerian is one of them. And he's now an anti-Trumper. He didn't support Trump in 24. He did in 20 and he did in 16. He didn't in 24. So in his defense, he was kind of off the Trump train a little bit earlier than a lot of these others. And he's now trying to run as an anti-Trump Republican in the 6th district in Florida. It's a really interesting choice because of all the places to run against Trump, Florida is pretty pro-Trump overall. Like it's a pretty solid red state.
Yeah.
And certainly with Trump in the White House, it's been a pretty solidly pro-Trump state. Obviously, it's where Trump has his Mar-a-Lago estate in Palm Beach. So it's an odd choice to me that he would turn around and run there. And there's a part of me that thinks he just wants to make some noise as having run, and he's not actually looking to win or to get nominated. Well, think about it from his point of view. He's only got 7 million on Instagram now. He's lost about 10 million over the last sort of 2 years since he had his, since he turned away from all the hedonism. We talk all the time about how, being really negative and awful sells and you get a lot more eyeballs. Well, here he is trying to clean himself up and be a bit more constructive and actually find some real happiness rather than the fake stuff. And he loses more than half of his following.
The one thing he has going for him is like, most politicians are fighting to keep all of their naughtiness out of the public eye, whereas Dan Bilzerian, you kind of already know it. So what could you throw at him? He's been a misogynist. Yes, we know. He documented on Instagram. Do you know what I mean? And I saw people in there saying, just on this, I saw people in the chat saying, oh, well, Trump did it. Arnie did it. Totally different. Totally different.
I disagree. I don't think it's totally different. I was going to get to this.
Do. Okay,
you go first.
Well, so Trump was a businessman first and foremost. Yes, he did reality TV. But if you've read The Art of the Deal, Donald Trump thrives on negotiation. That's his thing. Yeah, like he loves swinging his thing. And I think as someone who, was a real estate mogul in New York, one of the most overly regulated parts of the world, he just got sick of things, like trying to get things done, trying to achieve things. And that's what made him run, right? So that he was motivated through business. Yes, he also happened to be a celebrity, but I don't think he was a celebrity. Oh, what will I do next? Like Trump's got plenty of things going on. Like, And the other thing is too, he didn't need to run for 24. He could be at Mar-a-Lago playing golf every day.
Sure.
He's got more than
Right.
enough money. And then Arnie, the same thing. I think Arnie had really good intentions. He was an immigrant himself, and he moved to America, and he was really proud of America, and he wanted to be part of the American dream. I think he was a bit of an ideologue. So Bilzerian, I don't see it.
So President Ronald Reagan was a TV star, a movie star that then became the president. And he was mocked. He was mocked. Like, oh, you're just a movie star. What would you know? How could you be a president? He was a pretty good president.
That's in Back to the Future. They talk about that in Back to the Future.
Okay. That's I wasn't expecting that, but all right.
Doc said Marty says, Doc says to Marty, who's the president? He's like Reagan. He's like, the actor? Come on.
Okay. I've forgotten that. I'm just having a look now. So Dan Bilzerian has been in a bunch of movies. I'm just trying to find where it is. I think he was henchman number 3 in The Equalizer. I think that was his cast. That was his name. I'm just looking for it here. But like, yeah, so he's practically Arnie because he's been in movies as unnamed henchman roles. So good on him. But so Ronald Reagan was a movie star, and they said, oh, you won't know how to be president because you're just a movie star. And he was actually a decent president. And you know, what he did with the Soviet Union, tear down this wall, all that stuff, he understood, he had a touch for the theatrical, and he was great at public speaking. He was very funny, very endearing. That's obviously not the entire skill set that you need to be a president, but it's pretty important. And he proved to be very, very effective at a geopolitical in a geopolitical sense because he was so good person to person. His people skills, his person skills were phenomenal. Now, Arnie was a different thing. He came in as the governor of California, the governor. I don't want to move political boxes around. I want to blow them up. And then, of course, he didn't. He just did exactly what every other Democrat has done, which is make the government bigger and so on and so forth.
Did he run as a Republican? Wasn't Arnie a Republican? I'm pretty sure he was.
That's a Google right there.
He was the last Republican governor of California. I'm pretty certain.
Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger. Former governor of California. Sorry, I could have Googled something different and found it easier.
Yes, he was GOP. The chat is agreeing with me.
There you go. Okay. All right. There you go. Well, I was wrong. There you go. But he came in and he parlayed his fame as a movie star into that political office. Now, that is essentially what Dan Bilzerian is wanting to do. He wants to parlay his fame as an Instagram influencer into political office. Or actually, I don't think he actually does, but I think this is just a continuation of his gathering of fame. But what he wants us to believe is that he wants to be elected and he wants to now serve in the Congress as this public figure. What's interesting to me, and what I don't think there's been enough discussion of, and what's very relevant in the context of some Australians who you and I have talked about, and you know, it looks like they could very well be trying to build an audience for themselves for the purpose of running for politics later. The old media and the old movie studios, the Arnold Schwarzeneggers grew up in this, the President Ronald Reagans grew up in this, even your modern TV networks, your Channel 10, Channel 7, ABC, etc. They were team sports. If someone listens to ABC all day, they're going to listen to ABC all day, and the presenters will change, the faces will change, the voices will change, but they'll keep listening to the ABC all day long. People who tune into 7 News every night keep tuning into 7 News every night, even as the presenters change, etc. And because they follow the team, it's like you follow Arsenal or Man United, or you follow Collingwood or Carlton. You follow the team and the people change. On social media, it's different. Social media, people are not spectating and following a team. It's more like a blood sport. It's more like boxing or UFC. You look for and you find the individual that you want to champion and that you believe in, and you go, yeah, I love this guy. And they go in and they fight and they come out bloody, and sometimes they win and sometimes they lose, but you're following for the blood sport. And the key is you're following the individual. Why does that matter? Because I don't think people that are coming up through the individualism and the blood sport of social media are going to be in any way equipped for the team game that is politics. Politics is a team game, not an individual. It's a blood sport, but it's a team blood sport. And I think there's a lot of people out there that think I'm really popular. I've got a big following, so I can go into politics. Number one, I think a lot of them are going to get a rude awakening. They don't have the size or the influence of following that they think they've got. And I think Dan's almost certainly going to be in that category. But secondly, even if they got in, none of their life experience is preparing them and equipping them to play a full contact team blood sport. And I think they're going to find that actually once they're in, they are a wrecking ball even internally within their own parties. They just literally won't know what to do.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, Trump's obviously come out like yelling at everyone last week, and I actually find that funny. I just sort of go, eh. But I mean, I know you don't love getting involved in this, and I don't think it's about getting involved. I sort of look at it and go, they viewed themselves as kingmakers. They really did, because they did get Trump elected. A lot of these people.
You're talking about the podcast bros viewed themselves as kingmakers for Trump in the 2024 election. Yeah, they did.
And to be fair, like between Joe Rogan, Tim Pool, Charlie Kirk, that's who got them elected.
Sure helped.
Absolutely did. But I think, and you and I have said this before, and we acknowledge this, there's a level of responsibility when you start to build a platform for yourself. I mean, the novelty doesn't get old. The fact that people want to tune into you and I talking about topics is, it's kind of amazing and weird all at once.
And weird, yeah.
I think there comes a point where either you need to keep yourself grounded, or you need to make sure you've got the right people around you, because you get ahead of yourself. You sort of overplay your hand. And I definitely think your Tuckers, your Megans, your Candaces are sort of in that camp. And I saw someone say there, Carly, you used to like Candace. I did. I read her book. And I found the Bridget Macron thing quite funny.
Not because I endlessly about the Bridget Macron thing.
It was funny. It was funny. Do I believe Bridget Macron's a man? I don't know.
Yes,
I don't know. But the story is funny.
You doubled and tripled down on it. You do.
But if you look at that, where does Candace go from there? Do you know, it's a bit like Alex Jones. You get to a point where you go, what's next? And you've got your audience on their hook going, oh my God, tell me more. Yeah. And then I think this whole Charlie Kirk thing, I think it's fair to question, do we know everything? What are the facts? All that, sure. But the way she's turned into a spectacle and a circus is gross.
But even there, can we just touch on that for a moment? So there were a whole bunch of podcast bros and influencers, even in Australia, going, oh, the bullet didn't match. The finding came down and the bullet didn't match. The bullet must have come from a different gun. That's not what the report said. Not at all. What the report said was that the bullet was too damaged to be able to be matched to any weapon. That's what the report said. And so all these influencers who are out there being like, oh, this proves that we told you. No, it doesn't prove anything. It's actually quite common. So your typical hunting rounds are a hollow point round. They're designed to mushroom and expand. And if it's a high velocity round designed for shooting over larger distances and you shoot something closer, the bullet impacts with so much energy that instead of mushrooming but staying as one thing, it actually just pulls itself to pieces and it fragments. And some are designed to fragment, but even hollow points that aren't designed to fragment will fragment if you're shooting something at relatively close range when it's a bullet that's designed for longer range hunting or longer range shooting. That's what happened. The bullet fragmented beyond the point where they could reconstruct it in order to match any of the the markings to the riflings or to the casing of the weapon. That's all they're talking about. They couldn't get a forensic match to any rifle. And yet that was enough for all of these podcast bros to be out there going, oh, we told you, it's a big cover up, it's a big conspiracy. We told you Erica Kirk had her husband killed, all this kind of nonsense. It's like, this hasn't proved any of that. And you're lying to your audience. You're filling their head with nonsense and making them believe in conspiracies that don't exist for your own personal profit. And I get really pissed off when I see
she's
people
making them bloodthirsty. And I think that's the point. I mean, we can already see it in the chat here. There's people agreeing and disagreeing. I think when you get to a point where you're more worried about being on the team of the person that you watch, the podcaster or the influencer, than you are about questioning what you're talking about, then what's the whole point of it, right? Like, oh no, I'm team Candace. Candace is right. You're wrong. It's like, well, I'm not saying you can't like her, but let's talk about what she says. No, Candace is always right. Well, she's not. Do you know what I mean? But that's where everyone's at now. They're choosing sides like it's a bloody sporting team.
Yeah. So can I encourage people, if you really want to have a strong opinion about this, to go into this a bit deeper? The round actually caught the top of the trauma plate that he was wearing, and then diverted back up. And that's partly why it's unrecognizable. They can't do a forensic analysis on it because actually the bullet had already been partially destroyed before it ever made contact with him. It dumped an enormous amount of its energy in that deflection off the top of the trauma plate that was just in front of his chest here before it went up into his neck. So yeah, you can have all the theories you want, but when you actually put it together with the serious-minded people that are actually doing the research on this, I'm sorry, but the story actually holds. That it was the guy that they caught. It was the 30-06. Yes, you're absolutely in a clean shot. You're absolutely right. And actually, it wouldn't have taken his head off. It would have been a through and through. All right, that's what it would have. It would have been a through and through, in out, exit wound, a little bit bigger than the entry wound. But a 30-06 at that range just would have punched its way straight through. The reason it didn't is because the bullet was already deformed because of the deflection off the body armor. All of that's public record. If you care to actually look at reputable sources rather than people that are just trying to monetize your eyeballs.
And guys, in the chat, I can just see a bunch of people saying, why aren't you talking about this? Guys, if you want us to talk about things, there's a way of asking. I just can see some of these like shouty things saying you're all idiots and whatever. Like, I don't know what you're trying to achieve, but we're not going to talk about your topic if you're rude in the chat. I just think that goes without saying.
I'm going to ignore a bunch of the comments. There's a bunch of people telling me I'm wrong. Okay, cool, good.
Can we get on to a new topic?
Well, can we just come back to Dan for a second? Okay. So what we've got is a situation where people are going to try and parlay an audience into power. That's what that is. And let's assume that Dan's serious, or that anyone else that goes to try and do this later. They're trying to parlay an audience into power. Now, historically, in order to get their hands on power, they've had to pass sort of muster with the electorate, and they've had to be squeaky clean. Now, of course, nobody is, so it's a fake clean. All their skeletons are in the closet. What's interesting, as you alluded to before, we're going to enter a generation where people with their skeletons in the open are going to be going for these positions. And the judgment call is no longer going to be about, do we trust this person or not? Or, is this person clean or not? Sorry, the question is no longer going to be, is this person clean or not? It's going to be, do we believe that this person has changed or not? That's actually going to be the question that we're going to end up asking ourselves about future Donald Trumps and future Dan Bilzerians and others as they go for power. But we're going to go through a phase where that's really foreign and people get attacked for it. But actually, it's going to get normalized fairly quickly, because fast forward 40 years, the people running for office will have documented their entire childhoods on social media. Nothing will actually be secret anymore. Obama sitting there going, oh, well, yes, okay, fine. I did have a blunt when it was being passed around, but I didn't inhale, right? No. There's going to be Instagram videos, right? It's going to be a matter of public record what did and didn't happen. And I think in the end, this is actually going to be healthy, because at the moment we live in a world where we vote for the person that lies to us the best, because no one's clean. No one is as squeaky clean as every politician tries to make themselves out to be. And so we know they're lying to us. They know they have to lie to us. And so we've created a world where the only people that actually end up getting and running for election are really good liars. We have selected that in our preference for squeaky clean people that don't really exist in reality. So I think in the long run, and I think Dan would be a horrible politician. I really don't like what he's about. I don't trust his supposed change, and I don't think even the change that he's trying to claim he's made is anywhere near enough in any case. But I think via people like Dan, who I don't like, we're going to actually enter a world in another 30, 40 years where the politicians we're electing actually have to be much more real, much more kind of that Justin Bieber moment. Just because they have to. Their entire all the skeletons are out of the closet already.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be very interesting. But kind of still on the celebrity thing, this is a story I thought was worth talking about. So let me just pull it up. Shane Warne's son, Jackson, went on Two Worlds Collide. And you might find this very interesting. So we speculated, before we had the podcast, but something you and I have talked about at length, is that we believe Shane Warne had his heart attack because of the COVID jab. We've said that. I think a lot of people said that.
That's my personal opinion, yes. Yep.
Jackson's come out saying he believes it too. So the first thing I thought was worth talking about is he's gone on there basically saying that arresting Ben Roberts-Smith is an attempt to crush Australian spirit. And, and it's right. And so he's written here, I'll read the quote. All it's doing, for example, for me and people younger than me, is if I was thinking about joining the military and I see something that happens to Ben Roberts-Smith like this, why would I then join the military? If I'm prepared to put
100%.
my life on the line for the country and get all those accolades and awards and meet all these people and get all the recognition, but then you'll go quickly to be able to put me in the bin and disgrace me and tarnish my name, well, how does that make every other military soldier feel? And I think this is like good on him, good on Jackson.
Yeah,
I mean,
100% good on him. Yeah.
that he's got the media watching him. Like, this is bloody Herald Sun reporting this. But
Yeah, right.
I'll close this out and I'll bring up the part where he talks about his dad. So let me grab that.
I wasn't even aware that he was kind of out there in public. I couldn't have even
Oh, yeah,
told
they
you what his
both
name
are.
was.
Both him and Brooke, her name is, the daughter.
His sister,
She's
yeah.
she's an influencer in her own right. So all right, so let's listen to Jackson. Hang on.
Do you want to hear this? Do you think that the COVID shot killed your dad?
I definitely think it was involved, and I don't even think saying that is controversial anymore. Like with the amount of data that's come out, like even if dad had underlying health issues, I think this brought it straight to the surface. And that's one thing that I've always been like, that's one thing I've always struggled with, because my first impression, as soon as I hung up the phone, I instantly blamed the government. I instantly blamed COVID and the vaccine, and doing things like the State Memorial, where that's funded by VicGov and it's at the MCG, and there has to be certain due diligence and people's in the crowds have to get photos and do all that stuff. I felt really uncomfortable. And at the State Memorial, I nearly actually said, I blame the government, I blame COVID, but I didn't. And it's probably smart I didn't. I would probably be in a very different position if I did. But that was how I felt. And so even the last 3-4 years when it's come up in conversations, like I have not changed my tune. Obviously, at the end of the day, we'll never, ever know. The autopsy's there and people can go online and look at it, and I know what's happened to him. But Dad, at the time, he was healthy. He was happy. He actually looked the best he'd looked in a while. Yes, he smoked and he drank, but how many more people in the 80s and 90s still smoke and drink? A lot more than Dad. Yes, a lot of people were dying of heart attacks before, but I know, and this is how I feel, it might not be true, but Dad was okay. And I think he might have got 3 or 4. I know he didn't want to get them. He was forced to get them for work.
He got boosters?
Yeah, I think. And he was forced to get them like everybody else. Like Dad wasn't the only person. I know when Dad passed, he was probably the most famous Australian that people could go, yep, that's COVID. But I try not to think about it too much, because all that does is just fester into more anger and anger. And that anger is...
I guess if you guys want to watch the rest of it, go jump on Two Worlds Collides podcast. I don't want to steal his material, but very brave of Jackson. Very brave.
Yeah.
And I think sorry, I was going to say go.
I just want to deal with this. 30-06 is a big game rifle. Yes, I've shot them. Level 5 plates are serious plates. Research that.
Yes, you are being roasted for this. With Jackson, I mean, having that pressure, not only of Dad being Shane Warne, but of the Australian media now watching you coming of age and trying to figure out what you want to do, to go on and say that, I mean, to be honest, right now is a much more hospitable time to be saying that. If you had said that 5 years ago, it would have been very hostile.
And I actually share his sentiment that he shouldn't have said anything at the funeral.
No, I agree.
There is time and place, and he's also lost his dad. Like he is grieving as a human being, and the last thing he needs is some sort of a media shitstorm around him at that moment in time, especially rewind 5 years or 4 years, whatever it was, when he was 4 years younger. He's not an old man. He's still a young guy. Can I make a comment on Sam? I thought that Avi and Rukshan did actually a really interesting video. So Sam has come out in support of Ben Roberts-Smith. Now, Sam is a veteran himself, so he's got more right to speak on this topic than what I do, for example. And so he's come out in support of Ben Roberts-Smith, broadly speaking, similar sentiments to what I hold. But Rukshan and Avi did a video showing his comments, and they basically said, we agree with everything that Sam has said about Ben Roberts-Smith here. And Ben was talking about the difficulties of war against an enemy that doesn't respect the rules of war, that hides amongst the civilian population, that uses women and children as human shields or even as combatants, etc. Agreed with all of that. But Sam himself doesn't extend that same logic towards, for example, Avi, who served in the IDF under similarly difficult circumstances, women and children being used as combatants, the enemy hiding amongst civilian populations. It's an interesting double standard that this Ben Roberts-Smith arrest has brought out. I agree that the Ben Roberts-Smith arrest certainly should not have been done the way that it was done. I suspect he shouldn't have been arrested at all. I don't think his case is going to hold up much at all. I think they were lucky to get a conviction at a civil level on the balance of probabilities. I think they're going to find it impossible to get a criminal conviction. But it's just really interesting to me to see people who are themselves veterans. They will apply one set of rules to an Australian veteran, but they'll apply an entirely different set of rules to people in a different conflict, even though those people are facing very, very similar hurdles.
Yeah, look, 100%. And I mean, I've spoken to Avi off air plenty of times about what he saw and what goes on. And I think people are very quick to judge, and I've said this before, and I get so annoyed, but people love to be the old armchair expert, weighing in as if they have any idea of what things are like. I will take Sam's word because I know he was deployed. But for everyone else, I'm like, shut up, man. You don't know what you're talking about. You really don't. You think you do. You think you're cool. You think you're tough. But unless you've been there and you've seen it, then shut up.
No.
Your comment has no weight for me. But on the Ben Roberts-Smith thing, I want to show you this. So Drew Pavlo shared this. Let me pull it up.
He's done some good work on this, Drew. If you're not following Drew, follow him. So he's actually gone in quite a deep dive. I don't know if this is what you're bringing up, into the files from the civil prosecution.
Yeah, so I'm going to read this out. Court documents reveal that the Australian government war crimes investigators do not even have the names of the two individuals Ben Roberts-Smith is alleged to have killed in Afghanistan.
No, sorry, not the two of the five.
Yeah.
So that's an important detail. They don't have the names of 2 out of the 5.
Nobody has managed to identify these alleged victims, even after $300 million was spent on war crimes investigations over 5 years. Australian Office of Special Investigations Director Ross Barnett already revealed the investigations have no crime scenes, no access to the deceased, no bodies, no post-mortem report, no official cause of death, no recovery of projectiles to link the weapons to those which may have been used, no photographs, no site plans, no measurements, no recovery of projectiles, and no blood spatter.
Yep. What they have is the accusations of people who say that they were told by somebody that person that they were told by saw something.
So it's hearsay.
It is broadly speaking a hearsay case, and it's hearsay from people that have a vested ideological interest and in some cases a vested financial interest in having something to say. It is my personal opinion that it won't hold up. However, we'll have to wait and see. I saw a comment there saying that they'll get a conviction because that's what they want. I'm not sure that I really buy a lot of the here we go. Yeah, it'll hold up, international scapegoat. I've heard so many times kind of that fatalistic kind of they'll get the voice, it's what they've wanted. Well, no, they didn't. They'll get the misinformation, disinformation bill they've decided it's going to get in. Well, it didn't. I'm not going to be quite that fatalistic. But I do think just even the prosecution, people are posting saying the process is the punishment. I think that's spot on.
Do you want to hear an interesting story? So it's kind of a segue.
I don't believe it.
So it starts with, I needed to go and get my pants tailored, as you do. And I was looking for a new tailor in my local area, and I found one on Google that was really highly ranked. And I was like, all right, I'll go there. So I jumped in the car, went there, and I started having a chat to this lovely lady. She was helping me, whatever. And about 20 minutes into the conversation and me trying on all the clothes and stuff, I asked her, I was like, do you mind me asking where you're from? Because she had a very thick accent. And I knew she was going to be from a stan. I thought like Turkmenistan or something like that. And she said, I'm from Afghanistan. And I was like, okay, cool. And then we started having a chat. And she started the chat, not me, just to be clear. I don't go in there being all political, by the way. Because out the front, whilst I was trying on the different pairs of pants, there was these kids who were causing absolute chaos, just being loud, really obnoxious, screaming, yelling out the front. So this is in like a strip of shops. And she said, she's like, how do you feel about
you were getting pants adjusted in a stripper shop?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Sorry, I just wanted to make sure I'd heard that correctly. Yeah, okay, cool.
What I said is what I mean. So just
Mhm.
nod and smile.
Mhm.
And she said to me, she looked at me, she goes, "What do you think of the Victorian government and the way they're dealing with crime?" And I was like, I can't believe you're asking me this. Oh, well, lady. Right. And then we had like a 2-hour chat. It was great. Anyway, and we're chatting and I'm asking her questions about Afghanistan. She's asking me questions about here. And I said to her, like, I've always wanted to go to Afghanistan, like not now, obviously, not as a war tourist, but the Kabul that it was like in the 60s and 70s. Like I've read about that. And she said to me, the worst time in Afghanistan, she's like, it's bad now. Absolutely. She hasn't been back for 20 years and she would like to go back, but she's scared. And she said the worst thing that happened to Afghanistan was the Russians.
Yeah.
And she was telling me stories because she was a young girl. And she's like, they would line people up in their houses and just shoot them. Yep. And she's like, and that they would be driving down the road and you would be walking and then they'd just shoot at your feet to make you like jump around and dance. And she's like, the level of cruelty that the Russians displayed was unimaginable.
100%.
But she said the Americans, sorry.
Yeah. No, you keep going.
All of her family still lives there, to be clear. So she's in contact with her family. She herself hasn't been back there. And all of her family, I think, are sort of more rural areas. They're not sort of in Kabul and whatnot. And she wants to go back. She wants to see her parents before they die. And she said that in the years that she's been gone and the years that America and Australia were there, she's like, that's the best Afghanistan had been for a while because they felt like they could be themselves. There was like this moment of like, and then we start talking about Ben Roberts-Smith. And she's like, she looks at me and she goes, even if he did shoot those Taliban bastards, they deserved it. And I cheer him on for it. And I'm like, well, I mean, and she said, her comment was to me, and remember, she was sort of talking in broken English, but her comment to me was, you Westerners, us Australians, sit there and judge these soldiers and you know nothing about it. She's like, you have no idea what we're up against. You have no idea how cruel and evil these terrorists, these Taliban people are. She's like, they aren't human. You're looking at them through a human lens. You're talking about barbarians. You're talking about animals, people who don't value life. And so when the Australian government's looking at these people and going, oh, well, it's a war crime, it's this, that, and the other, she's like, in her words, she's like, the Afghanis want them killed. We don't want them here. And she's like, and then the Australian government saying that what he did was bad, even if he did or he didn't do it. I disagree with that. And I was just like, well, there you go.
Yeah. So Charlie Wilson's War is an interesting movie. We have touched on it before. I'll only talk very briefly. It's a Hollywoodized version, of course, but essentially it follows a congressman and a socialite and this sort of weird, eclectic bunch of people that coalesced around the cause of trying to get America to fund the rebuilding of Afghanistan after the withdrawal of the Russians. And so essentially it follows this congressman funneling CIA money into the Taliban, as it was back then under Osama bin Laden, to fight against the Russians. Now, the reason why America felt compelled to get involved was, yes, number one, stopping Russian expansion, stopping this is the Cold War era, fear of the expansion of communism, etc. But actually, the catalyst was the sheer level of barbarism from the Russians towards the Afghanis. And the technological difference was such, they would literally just go in and slaughter entire villages. And once they'd gone in and kind of slaughtered the villages nearby, they needed to get to the villages further away and slaughter everybody there. It was too far to drive. So they would send in a flight of helicopter gunships, Hind helicopter gunships with rockets and machine guns. And they would just hover around and just shoot buildings until people ran out of the buildings and then shoot the people. And it didn't matter, men, women, children, old people, combatants, non-combatants, it made no difference to them. And the thing with a Hind is that it's impervious to AK-47 or the kinds of weapons that goat herders and mountain living Afghanis would have access to. These guys literally could just choose to not care. And so the CIA funneled, I don't know if it was the Stinger back then, it might have been, but it was the whatever version of the shoulder-fired, heat-seeking anti-aircraft missiles into the Taliban, trained them how to use it, and they began to be able to shoot down the Hind helicopters, and a bunch of other things happened, and they began to turn the tide. And eventually, it was more than 10 years. I don't remember how long it was, but it was more than 10 years that Russia were in Afghanistan. And it turned into exactly the kind of quagmire that it did for the US, and the Russians ended up withdrawing. And America had a choice. They'd spent billions of dollars on funding and arming the Taliban to fight against the Russians. And they could have chosen to get involved in sort of the rebuilding, so to speak. They chose not to, and they basically just walked away and said, "Oh well, Russia's out, so we've done our job." And that is what handed Afghanistan to the Taliban, because they had all the weapons, they had a command structure, they had training courtesy of the Americans, and they were able to just go, right, well, the whole country's ours now. And that was what cemented. The Russians were the ones who destroyed the Afghanistan that we knew, but it was the fact that it was the Taliban, thanks to the Americans, that were able to take over Afghanistan, that meant that Afghanistan never came back.
Yeah. So I just thought that was really interesting. And I mean, I was reading some of the comments. I posted on the Oddcast channel one of the clips of Dibba being on our podcast. And some of the comments in there were just insidious, you know, people saying that he's a sellout, that he's like, and I guess my issue with that is you guys don't have to like the stories that we tell you. You don't have to like what we're saying. You don't have to agree, but you can acknowledge that these people who grew up there, whose family are there, probably know more than you guys do. And same with this Afghani woman. Like, I mean, if I could get her on the podcast, I would. But like, you know, I don't know if she'd want to. But like, I got told the other day that apparently my stories are anecdotal, right? Like this is what it was about. It was about Hassan Piker. I put up a video about Hassan, and someone said like, "Oh, you should watch his documentary." And then something else happened, and she goes, "Oh," I said, "Oh, I don't need to watch his documentary. I've been to Cuba. I've spoken to Cubans." And her retort was, "Oh, so a journalist goes there and does research, and you think your anecdotal evidence is more is better or whatever? Like, how embarrassing!" And I'm like, "Do you even hear yourself? What's anecdotal about it? He's a guy that went there. I went there. What's the difference? I'm not sure what you're trying to make here." And I guess,
but by that definition, a documentary is anecdotal. I mean, by that definition, it's just a bunch of anecdotes.
Like, you know, I know people want us to have more guests on and stuff, and I'd love to, but like, do you want the same guests that go on everyone else's podcast and we have the same chats, or do you want interesting people from the communities that we're talking about? Like, something I feel really weird about is I'm talking about these things. I've never been to Iran. I've never been to Afghanistan. I'm speculating. I'm going off what I've read and what I've heard. I would much rather the person who grew up there to be like, "So this is how it really is." But apparently that is irrelevant.
But the other thing, and this is probably important to touch on before we get to Iran, because there is a lot to talk about with what's going on in Iran at the moment. We talk about all the time, multiple things can be true at once. And that is especially true when you're talking to an individual who is talking about their experience within a given situation. If I were to talk to a high-ranking member of the Basij, they're going to have a very different view of Iran and the IRGC than Dibba does, for example. We know that there are other points of view. We bring on people like Dibba because we happen to think that their point of view is probably the one that we would morally align with the most. I'm not going to align myself with the IRGC, a literally genocidal, government that kills its own civilians for the most ridiculous of reasons and uses death as a tool of control. I'm sorry. I know I can find people that are pro-Iran. I interviewed one of them on the Topher project. And he was sitting there going, "No, look, the Iranian government's not that bad. I've been there a bunch of times. I've been broadcast on Iranian TV and I've never had any trouble with them." I'm like, "Yeah, because they like you because you don't give them trouble, right? That's why. That's what's going on there." We know those people exist. We know that when we have a guest on or when we talk to somebody, we're getting their perspective. That's the point. But in the case of someone like Dibba, I'm sorry, that's the perspective that I think is correct. I made a documentary about the battleground Melbourne, all the lockdowns in Melbourne. I got accused of being one-sided. Yes, I'm presenting the side that the mainstream media would not give you. The government, the police, the mainstream media, they all presented one side. I specifically went to present to you the other side of that story. Do I know that there are other points of view? Yes, I do. They got shoved down my throat for years, but that was the underrepresented point of view that I believe is true. And that was the story that needed to be told. And it's the same with the guests that we get on. So just simply turning around and going, "Oh, you're wrong. I spoke to somebody and they said something different." Okay. Multiple things can be true at once and people can have different perspectives on the same events. We know. We get it. Let's just have an adult conversation.
Yeah, 100%. So with Iran, before we get into what's going on actually in Iran, do you want to talk about what our government thought was a really good idea to waste it's 20 million on?
Oh, this is so painful. Guys,
Let me pull
if
it
you're
up.
not drunk yet, get busy because this hurts.
Okay, so the Australian federal government has felt the need to spend $20 million of taxpayer money on launching.
Boy, I would have loved to get that video production contract.
Can I just say, I'd do it for a 20th. Just give me $1 million and I'd pump these ads out for you.
Yeah.
Like, I'm cheap. Come on over.
And G said that actually. That's it's funny.
He did say that.
The reality is the video wouldn't look any different. The ad wouldn't look any different. Where the money has gone is not actually in the production. It's gone in all the consultants and all the focus groups and all the other nonsense. I talk about corruption hiding in plain sight. The government has a very large group of tame experts that are on their payroll, and they will tell them whatever they want to hear, and they'll give them the expert advice that they're paying for. That's where 19 million out of the 20 million went.
Does that also include their ad spend? So with the networks and billboards?
I doubt it. $20 million does not buy a lot of ad spend anymore. I doubt it. Look, it might. I've not actually looked into it, but I doubt it.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see that because that would change the total substantially. So basically, let's play the ad. Let me pull this up. All right. Can you guys see that? Yes, you can. All right. Here we go, guys. Let's see what 20 million gets us.
The global fuel shortage is affecting us all. To keep us
listen to that voice.
Working to secure Australia's fuel supply and has a 4-level national fuel security plan. We're now at level 2, and we all have a part to play. Together, simple actions can make our supply go further and save fuel for our truckies, farmers, and essential services. Every little bit helps. For fuel-saving tips, visit fuelplan.gov.au.
I'm sorry. I don't want to be that person. Did I only count one white person in that?
I wasn't paying attention. I'm just hanging to get to that website and just find out what I need to do to play my part at level 2.
Hang on. Okay, so we start with this African lady, and then we come across.
If you're gonna scrub through it, put it back on screen.
Oh, sorry. Hang on. I thought it was still on screen. My bad. I'm not trying to be an asshole, and like I don't care that there's different races in there. It's just more so like Albo said that we need to all be Australian, and now I'm yet to see someone in this ad that looks like me. Okay, so we've got African lady, and then what do you reckon that is? He's got a mullet. It's hard to know.
Islander of some sort, I think.
Islander or Hispanic potentially.
Maybe,
and
it could be.
This guy. Is he our first Aussie? Is he?
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could easily be Aussie or some kind of Middle Eastern, but yeah, it could easily be Aussie.
Yeah. Okay, so there's our Aussie family, our white family. Yeah. All right. These are our wokies. You can just tell. We've got Indian, and then I'm guessing Sri Lankan or something, or maybe Indian.
No, you're being so racist here. You're just making so many assumptions.
Malaysian, maybe, I don't know, Southeast Asian. Yeah. Yeah, wow.
Yeah. All right. Of more significance, I am desperate. I need to know, what do I need? We're at level 2, Carly. Did you see? Were you
ready?
We're at level 2, Carly. Level 2 sounds serious. There are levels.
But we didn't have a fuel crisis. The Prime Minister told me that we didn't have a crisis.
There are levels, Carly.
Okay.
Take this seriously.
Okay, sorry. All right. Fuel saving tips, guys. And just to be clear, this is very serious. I expect you all to pay attention. Okay? Okay. All right. How do I bring this back? What do I have done? There we go. All right. Plan well. Firstly, look after your vehicle's tires. Travel light. The more a vehicle carries, the more fuel it uses. Minimizing the cargo your vehicle carries can reduce your fuel consumption.
I think that is great advice for truckies. I see so many trucks driving down the freeway with these big ass 30-ton loads on the back. If they just ditch that shit, they would use a fraction of the fuel. I think that's a great point.
I thought, well, we're going to get to the situation where, like, you know, Jetstar charges me if I'm 500 grams for my bag, but they don't look at the person who might be 150 kilos and go, oh, that might be a problem.
Excuse me. Just because I am a great man doesn't mean I should pay more for my airline seat. Thank you very much.
I disagree. If you're gonna charge me for 500 grams over, like $80,
I completely agree on the hypocrisy. I do.
but
I
I'm
genuinely
like literally half the person of an obese person, and sorry, I don't buy into that at all.
Look, when I was 80 kilos and when I was 125 kilos, the airfare cost me the same. It's make it make sense.
Yeah. Okay. Minimize aerodynamic drag. You can reduce your fuel consumption by removing extra parts of your vehicle's exterior, like roof racks and spoilers, and only opening the window when necessary.
You know, you can just remove the windscreen and the rear window, and the air can just pass straight through the vehicle. You'll reduce the frontal area quite significantly. The roof racks. So I was Albo, I think, in one of his statements said, removing roof racks. Yep. Okay, cool. Sure. Thank you, Dad. I appreciate the advice.
Don't overfill the fuel tank. Stop at the first click.
No. So hang on. We've got to get to aircon and heating because G made a good point about this. So aircon does use fuel. Okay, fair enough. So let's all go back to a time when we didn't have aircon in our cars, right? Remember, like 40 years ago when air conditioning was an extra that you paid for and your dad was too stingy to pay for it. So you had a non-air conditioned car with vinyl seats and the seatbelt clip. If you touched that, if the car was parked in the hot sun and you got into the car and you touched the seatbelt clip, you were branded for life. You know, kids my age, we have seatbelt shaped brands on our bellies because our t-shirts would ride up while we were trying to put the seatbelt clip on, and we would brand ourselves with the seatbelt clip, right? We just got to go back to that. It's not a big deal, Carly. We've just got to go back to that.
I still remember first moving to Australia, we had an XA. That was my mum's car. My dad had a Toyota Corolla when we first moved back to the country. And it was like no power steering. It was mission brown with the vinyl roof and everything. And it was a yellow vinyl bench seat. And it was the middle of a hot Australian summer. I remember getting into that car and not being able to sit on anything or touch anything because it was like molten lava. So much so.
Your parents would yell at you, like, sit down. And like, I can't.
Yes. It's burning.
Yeah. So the best one was you'd sit there and eventually you'd get your legs onto the seat, you'd sit there. And then if you didn't move your legs for a while in the car, when you went to get out, you had to kind of, it was like peeling off a Band-Aid, but it was the entire, like your entire, thigh just up off listen to us, like a couple of old codgers.
Kids these days will never know. And then watching my mum trying to change gears.
So I haven't verified this, but B-Boy Breezy 2417 says John Wick, I'm assuming the first one, cost $20 million to make.
Oh.
Just for reference.
Rather cheap.
Well, that is a very, very inexpensive movie for what is quite a good movie. But my goodness, $20 million on that ad. I think this is a great idea. I don't know why Albo didn't come up with this one. If you just cut your car off at the A, B, and C pillars and just lift the entire roof and all the glass off, it'll save a hunk of weight. You won't use your air conditioning because there's no point, and it reduces the frontal area of your car. So it must be more aero efficient. I mean, that's just logic.
Is it kind of like two negatives become a positive? Like the Jeep, right, is so unaerodynamic and inefficient fuel-wise that it becomes fuel efficient? Is that kind of what we're talking now? Like,
so
is that girl math?
Have you got the real Jeep where you can take the roof off and lay the windscreen flat? Or have you got the fake
windscreen
you got
down,
the real one?
I can take the
Carly,
doors off.
You are causing the fuel crisis. How are you driving around with a roof on your car when you could leave it in the garage? This is entirely your fault.
Yes.
Gosh,
you're right.
Women,
I should just push the windscreen down, open up the back, take the roof off, take the doors off, and like I wouldn't use any fuel.
You know what? The longer you drive,
woman.
the fuller your fuel tank will get.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
You could supply the country. If you just drive enough in your car with that configuration, you could just offload fuel to the Bowsers.
Yeah, see? Smart.
Problem solved.
Yes, back to this aircon and heating on low settings. My beautiful man did tell us that the heating doesn't use any petrol because it's not using the air conditioning compressor unless you specifically tell it to. So there you go.
I was going to say you can run the heater with the air conditioning compressor turned on to dehumidify the air. And I do think that some vehicles, so for example, electric vehicles have heaters, even though they don't have a heat exchanger with an internal combustion engine. So they are using, I presume, elements, or they're running like a reverse cycle air conditioner in your house. They're running it the other way and using it as a heat pump. So there would be cars where that would be true. You'd save fuel with it by not using the heater. But geez, right, especially in older cars. Like if your car, if you can't get heat out of your heater until after the engine's warmed up, that's a pretty good indicator that you've got a heat exchanger, and you can probably use your heater without your conscience troubling you too much.
Apparently we do sound like old codgers, and to be fair, you're right.
I have maintained for years that I am, well, now 44, going on 80. Like honestly, I am.
Do we want to keep going and reading these things?
No, I do want to bring out a couple more here, because drive in high gear. Do you know how bad that is for a turbocharged engine? To lug a turbocharged engine is really, 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 really bad. Also, in the age of automatic transmissions being almost ubiquitous, most of us aren't actually given a choice by our car. And the transmission is tuned for maximum efficiency, because in its default mode, that's where they do their fuel economy testing when they manufacture the car. So the gearboxes, the automatic gearboxes, are tuned for best efficiency already. So I would suggest don't touch a thing.
Minimize idling. So don't leave your engine running while parked or waiting. So basically the Porsche has the, what do you call it, where it stops?
Oh, the
engine?
Okay.
Yeah.
So
it's infuriating, that thing.
My Volkswagen has the same thing, and I have a startup ritual. Start button, turn off the stop start, handbrake off. And it's this 3-touch ritual. It's automatic every single time the stop start gets turned off.
Yeah, it's so stupid.
I love this one. Monitor your fuel use. I am looking at that freaking fuel gauge. Don't you worry about that. I every time the car breathes, I can see that needle moving. Trust me, I am monitoring the crap out of my fuel usage right now.
It's just, isn't this insulting to our intelligence? Minimize your vehicle use. Oh, okay. Thank you. Are we going to get some insurance and car rego discounts for minimizing our usage?
No, excuse me. Can I get a medal? Because I did that voluntarily right from the get-go. As soon as this happened, I went, you know what? There's farmers out there that need diesel more than I do, and I haven't been doing the drive to Melbourne every week for the Oddcast, right? So can I get a medal or something just to recognize the contribution that I'm making to saving Australia as per the government's instructions?
I haven't done anything, to be fair. If anything, I've been driving more. So,
well, to be fair, you drive a petrol vehicle. You drive a petrol vehicle, and petrol's actually not the one that we need to be most concerned about, because petrol is more used for commuting to and from work, that sort of stuff. Diesel's the stuff that actually does work. So, for example, I do work. That's why I drive a diesel vehicle. G does work. That's why he drives a diesel vehicle. You drive a petrol vehicle. I'll let you make your own conclusions about what that means. But no, trucks and tractors.
Offering the government a discount. I could have told everyone that for only 10 mil. Yeah.
The people doing the heavy industry in this country are using diesel, and that's the one that we really, really, really need to be cutting back on.
But yeah, so all of this stuff, I mean, everything that comes out of the government, they're obviously trying to appeal to the lowest common denominator. Unfortunately, someone made a comment in there that, to be fair, most people aren't smart. And I'm like, you are accurate.
That's not wrong. Not wrong.
Bogans are still doing kids. I'm sure the teenagers don't give a shit. I'm sure they're
Bogans are still doing kids.
I think kids.
That probably needs to be reported to the police. Does VN Bogani know about this?
I'm sure the 14-year-olds stealing cars aren't too worried about petrol prices.
Yeah, or insurance or anything else.
I got my insurance the other day. The premium's gone up yet again. Thank you for that.
Of course. Mm-hmm. Have you
Yeah,
tried not being a woman? Actually, that's not true. You get cheaper insurance, don't you?
Well, I'm rating 1, but I don't think that means anything these days.
If you were to go non-binary, what would happen?
Well, we did see that. Remember, that was a big thing a couple of months ago. I did try, to be
That's why
fair,
I
but I
bring it
think
up.
they cottoned on to it pretty quick and they shut that part down.
I think G would have cottoned onto that pretty quick too. We got
okay,
to talk about Iran.
All right. Do you have something to share, or do you want me to pull something up?
Okay, no, I don't have any screens. I can get some. So couple of really interesting things. So last week I was very unclear. Last week, for those of you that watch the show regularly, last week I was sitting there going, I feel like Trump's lost his way. I feel like he's floundering a little bit. He's lost the clarity of what it is that he's trying to achieve. I stand by that. That's what it felt like last week. I do feel like this week there's been an injection of clarity again, particularly in the last 48 hours since the failed negotiations where JD Vance was over there trying to negotiate in person. Now, so for those of you that don't know, what Trump has said in the wake of the failed negotiations, Trump has said that they are going to blockade the Straits of Hormuz themselves. And you might think, well, why? There's no ships moving through there. No, but there are a few. Specifically, tankers that are carrying Iranian oil from Carlz Island and from other Iranian depots, mostly going to China, and a handful of other tankers that pay the tax. It's $1 per barrel. It works out to be about $2 million US per full-sized tanker that's getting paid to the IRGC as essentially protection money, extortion money. Now, the reason Iran are able to do this, actually, I should bring this up. I've got a couple of maps here I should bring up because it is relevant. I did a video on this today, so I've got all this at hand. If you just give me 2 seconds. So this is what the Straits of Hormuz would look like normally. Now, for those that aren't familiar with maritime navigation, and why would you be? The ocean's a big place, but actually they have lanes. They have lanes like one-way streets on the water to try and make sure that two ships don't go bump in the night, because that can get very expensive very quickly. And so particularly in areas where the waterways get narrow or where there's really high traffic, you will get lanes. And that's what we can see in the part of this picture here, just above the tip of Oman there. You can see kind of two purplish bent bananas. One has arrows pointing in one direction, the other has arrows pointing in the other direction, and there's a separation of about 2 miles in between them. Those are the lanes that commercial shipping above a certain tonnage is meant to stay within when navigating the Straits of Hormuz. Now, what you can see there is the blue dotted line is actually the territorial waters border between Omani waters and Iranian waters. And you can see that these two lanes are actually outside of Iranian territorial waters. They are not under Iran's control at all. Now, to the left, you see another 2 lanes. They're longer. They're inside Iranian waters, but actually they don't need to be used. Tankers could stay further to the south in that open water there. That's perfectly fine. But by default, when there's no issues, when there's no conflict, that's the most efficient route. And so they will stay in those lanes and carry on through. So what could and should have been possible, if Iran wanted to say, look, you can't use our waters, okay, fine, we'll stick inside Omani waters and United Arab Emirates waters, and we won't go into Iranian waters at all. That is the theory that should have been possible. But here's what they did. It's going to take me a moment to bring up the other picture, image file. Why is that not there? This doesn't support the file type. Damn it.
Screenshot it.
Yeah, I'm going to have to Strait of Hormuz marine map. Gosh. Okay. With mines. Sorry, guys, I'm doing this live as we go. Okay. This one here. All right, I will just make this. I'll do it as a sharing of a tab. We're nearly there, everybody. It'll be worth it, I promise. Screen
I'll start
share.
showing my dog in a minute.
That one, share. Okay, now get this up on the screen. All right. So this is the reality of what's happened. So this is obviously a map from a slightly different perspective, but that is Oman once again to the south. Where that red area there is where Iran claims to have laid mines. Now, what they've done is they've offered alternative sea lanes. But you'll notice that the sea lanes go much, much, much closer to Iran and are well inside Iranian territorial waters. So Iran have said, we successfully laid mines in the actual sea lanes. So you can't use those. You have to use these alternative lanes that bring you into Iranian territorial waters and close enough to the coast that we can use the remaining munitions that we have, the much shorter range drones, the less accurate drones, and shorter range missile systems to be able to attack you unless you pay the fee. Here's the thing, to my knowledge, and this could change at any moment, but to my knowledge, there is no certainty that any mines got laid. There is actually no evidence that mines have been laid. Iranian mine sweepers were heading into the Gulf towards that area when they got sunk by the US Navy. To my knowledge, it cannot be proven that any mines were actually laid. However, the uncertainty is the point. Just the fact that we don't know is enough to have these oil tankers go, you know what? This is a $100 million ship. We've got $100 million worth of oil on board. We don't really want to run into a mine, so we're going to stay where we are. Plus, the insurance companies obviously withdrawing coverage. So this is the state of play right now, is that any tankers that want to get in or out have to go through Iranian territorial waters, and they are threatened with being sunk unless they pay the fee. What Trump has said is, you know what? We're just going to block the whole damn thing. So Iranian tankers are not going to get out with Iranian oil bound for China, and other people's tankers that have paid the fee are not going to get out. Now, I think the timing of this is because we had a situation where it's believed, and you know, again, I'm having to rely on international media, but it's believed, and I think I've got this here, that the is it here? That China was preparing another shipment. No, different one. It's believed that China was preparing another shipment of weapons to head to Iran, paid for in Iranian oil that was leaving the Straits, that Iran were allowing obviously out of the Straits. So here's what Trump did. He said, we're going to block it so that no more gets out, and we're going to raid all the ships that have already passed through. Whether they paid the fee or whether they're Iranian, they're all fair game. We're going to go and seize all of those tankers, which means that the payment from Iran to China for those weapons that is still on the water making its way around India is now going to get seized, possibly by India, possibly by the US. It's not going to make it to China. Now, China are actually hurting a lot as a result of the current oil prices. They used to be kind of immune to the global oil price because they were buying the Iranian embargoed oil super cheap. They're no longer immune because if that Iranian oil gets cut off, they have to buy it all at commercial prices. They have to buy it all on the open market. And that's not good for their business model. It's not good for their competitiveness worldwide. China are actually not nearly as competitive on a wages and cost of doing business front anymore. As they've become wealthier and wages have risen and standard of living has risen, they're no longer cheap labor. India are cheap labor, Africa are cheap labor, China are not. And you take away their energy advantage and actually a lot of their economic advantage disappears. So I think Trump's timing is based around the resupply of Iran with weapons. And what he's doing is twofold. He's tightening the screws on China, which is what this has been about really the whole time, is energy supply into China. Excuse me. He's tightening the screws on China. He's cutting off the money flow and the weapon flow into Iran, which then means that time's on his side. He can actually sit there with the straits closed for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. He doesn't care. High energy prices are actually good for America right now because it increases their leverage. This is why they're exporting fuel. America are saying, hey, come one, come all. Trump said this, bring your tankers, we'll fill them up, we'll send them back nice and full to the brim with American energy, American oil. He's using this to force the world to pivot to North America as their primary energy source, or at least as their backup energy source while the Straits of Hormuz are closed. He doesn't care how long the Straits remain closed for. Now, I think it's going to take at least a month for Iran to run out of money. They're already not paying their Basij and a bunch of their other security forces, but they've still got some money. If he's going to play a waiting game, which is what I think this is now, I think he's going to cut off the Straits and then just say, okay, we're fine. We can wait. We'll wait. It's cool. He's going to take his time clearing out the mines or checking to see if there are any mines. He's not going to be in a rush to get that done and reopen the Straits. He's quite happy to sit there with the Straits completely closed for as long as it takes. Unfortunately, what that means is that oil prices are going back up again. That's the reality. They've already started going back up. They're likely to stay up. But what this means, it's twofold. Short-term pain, absolutely. We are going to be paying even more. The shortage is I'm not going to say going to get worse because America is pumping out a lot of oil and it is exporting now a lot of oil or a lot of actually refined petroleum products. But short-term pain. But I think ultimately this is Trump's end game. Trump can now go, okay, we can just hold this position. We are just going to sit here because sooner or later the IRGC are going to run out of money and run out of friends, and the internal tensions are going to become too much. Something's going to happen because they've been cut off from China, because China are not shipping weapons for free. Let's be clear about that. If China aren't getting paid, they're not sending weapons. So they're not getting any resupplies. They're not getting any more ammunition. They're not getting any more missiles or drones, only what they can build domestically. And that capacity has been dramatically reduced. They're not getting any more money with which to pay their internal security forces, which is what they depend on to keep the people down. And Trump's just going to sit there and go, you know what? I'm cool. Let's just stay here and see who loses patience first. I think we're gonna be stuck in this position for a month or more.
Do you want to read that?
So I mostly like Trump, ignoring the files, attacking Massey, depicting himself as Christ, and another war costing points. Well, that's a lot of things to not like about Trump, by the way. I still hope he pulls off a win, but it shows why the world needs Ron Paul. I'm 100% with you. I'm a libertarian. Trump is a conservative. I'm a libertarian. Yeah. He and I have fundamental ideological differences. And I think a Ron Paul would be a much better president, or, he's aged out now, unfortunately, but, even Rand Paul, Thomas Massey would be wonderful. But we've got Trump right now. That's the reality of the world that we're in. And I think Trump is doing an enormous amount more good than any other US president I've seen in my lifetime. And I stand by that, even with the current situation in Iran. I think it's ugly. I think some things have been poorly handled. I don't like it. But I actually think that Trump has done more good for the world, including what he's doing in Iran, than any other US president that I've seen in my lifetime. Unfortunately, we have to endure some short-term pain. And we've talked before about we are a cushy, soft culture that hasn't endured really a lot of pain. And so this feels really awful. This feels really uncomfortable to us.
I'm kind of reserving my judgment until we sort of get a little bit further along. I mean, I could sit here and speculate and give you things that I think might happen, but at the end of the day, it's a waste of my energy. But the one thing I see through all of this is everyone's sort of playing their cards right now. So all of the typical anti-Trumpers are all, getting up in arms about it. But what would have happened if this was Kamala?
Oh, yeah, it doesn't bear thinking about. To be honest, if it was Kamala, Iran would not be dealt with, Venezuela would not be dealt with, and China would be licking their lips. They would be saying, okay, this is our window of opportunity here. Whereas right now, they're not. G asks a good question here. Topher, how does the US close the straits without massive backlash from China? Can they do that in international waters? So because the US have put sanctions on Iranian oil, any tanker carrying Iranian oil, they can jump on board and they will claim and say, well, it's sanctioned oil. This shouldn't be on the high seas. No one should be buying this oil. We're just doing the right thing. It's kind of the Team America World Police approach, but not like the UN will pass their resolutions. They'll write a sternly worded letter to pick up to riff on Team America World Police, but nothing will actually happen. China are not in a position to start something, not with the President Trump in the White House. They are not in a position to. People are saying, while America's distracted with Iran, China's going to go and take Taiwan. Okay. Tell me you haven't spent any time researching an invasion of Taiwan without telling me you haven't spent any time researching an invasion of Taiwan. Maybe one of the guests we should have on in the future, Carly, is a friend of mine, Paul Monk. He's a retired or semi-retired academic. He was the head of the China desk for the Defense Industry Organization for years. He was basically, he was spook adjacent, spy adjacent. He would take all of the intel that came in from the intelligence assets, and he would have to form that into a cohesive picture about what was going on in China. I've sat and spoken with him at length about a Taiwan invasion. Part of his job was to know what to look for as the warning signs that China might invade Taiwan. And he will tell you, we will know that there is an invasion of Taiwan coming approximately 3 months before they can launch the invasion. Taiwan is a heavily fortified, very well-defended island, and it would require massive resources to launch anything resembling a meaningful invasion. The amassing and the gathering of those resources is going to be very, very obvious. We have endless 24/7 high-resolution satellite reconnaissance of everything that the Chinese are doing. We will know. We will know months in advance. It's a little bit like when Russia invaded Ukraine. A lot of us were surprised that the invasion actually happened, but we knew about the buildup. It wasn't a surprise that Russia had all those forces on the border with Ukraine. We knew that. We just misread what that meant. In the case of China, we will know. We will see. Any of the other moves that China wants to make are kind of similar. The Chinese problem is the minute a war drags out beyond about the 3-month mark, they run out of energy and they run out of industrial resources.
Yeah.
So battles are won on tactics, wars are won on logistics, your ability to have the supply chain, but actually you can't have logistics without industry. Industry is actually what wins wars. The ability to churn out more tanks, the ability to train more fighting men, the ability to develop new technologies and new weapons. That's actually where the war gets fought and won. China has massive industrial capacity. They can manufacture like nobody else on earth, but they don't have the raw resources themselves. This is why they import so much from so many parts of the world. Their supply chains are incredibly vulnerable. The Straits of Malacca being a particular choke point. But when you look at it's the I was talking about the pearl necklace in the photo you made of me. It's called the Ring of Pearls. If you look at it strategically around the Southeast China Sea, there are a series of choke points. And there are countries that are essentially assigned to those choke points. South Korea and Japan in the north, the US in the more open blue water points heading out into the Pacific Ocean. Australia has a role to play in the Straits of Malacca and some of the other areas. India obviously has a role to play in their region. China would get choked off from industrial supply very, very quickly. So anything they do has to be over quickly. They have to get in, get what they want, and it's over. And then it's the dust settling after that. The minute it drags on, they're in all kinds of trouble. China are not going to start a war over Iranian oil. They're just not. Now is not the right time.
I saw this comment from Loz. I still support Trump. Carlz, you wanted him to take out Iran, didn't you? But I agree, it's all a bit up in the air. Look, I still stand by it. But I like my comment I made before, and like I'm not going to speculate, is honestly, like I'm just doing what everyone else is doing. I'm looking at propaganda. I'm looking at what's going up and this person's opinion and that person's opinion. I can't see it with my own eyes. Like it's very hard for me to be, oh yes, Trump has made a really good decision here. Until I think all the cards are on the table and we can sort of see the aftermath, then I can sort of weigh in on whether or not I think it's a good thing. I would like to see regime change. I would like to see Iran liberated. I'd like to see the mullahs and the ayatollahs gone, but it doesn't look like it's going that way. Unfortunately, I'm a bit.
I think it does look like it's going that way, but it's going to take a little bit longer.
My concern is if they don't eradicate the IRGC, if it is not a full regime change, what does that mean for the Iranians? What does that mean for the people, right? So like, look at what happened with the Taliban. The second I know we don't have boots on the ground in Iran, but the second America left Afghanistan, it fell back into the hands of the Taliban, and it's worse now than it was when the Taliban were originally in power. That's my fear for the Iranians. Like, either do it and friggin' be done with it, or do you know what I mean? Like, I don't feel confident with where things are at right now.
But you remember what Diba said on that, and he talked about Reza Pahlavi.
Reza Pahlavi,
yeah. And there are people ready and willing and able to step in and form an interim government for the purpose of bringing them to an election and having a democratically elected government. The Iran situation and the Iranian people are very, very different to the Afghanistan situation. I hope that Trump resists the urge to put boots on the ground, and I'm hopeful that this blockading of the Straits turns into a waiting game, which takes away the need. He doesn't have to put troops on Carlz Island if he blocks the Straits. The purpose of putting Marines on Carlz Island would be to stop the export of oil. Well, he's already done that, or he's doing that. Assuming that the blockade is functional, he doesn't have to put boots on the ground anymore. So I'm actually, this is why my handle is optimism has returned. I'm actually more optimistic now than I was last week. I think Trump can now apply this blockade and continue the bombardment when necessary, etc. This ceasefire was never a ceasefire. It was ridiculous to even call it one. Continue all of that, but largely just play a waiting game. Iran can't resupply, they can't rearm, and they can't get money. There's only so long that can go on before something internally shifts. Also, one last thought on that. Remember, Iran is no longer a single, even the IRGC as a government is no longer a single entity. They have fractured and splintered to the point that one cousin can't even speak for the other. We see that with the negotiations. One half brother. They can't even speak for each other anymore. You negotiate with one group and then some other group tries to hijack that negotiation. So that's already happened. Bleed them dry. And at some point in time, the balance of power will shift, loyalties will shift, and it will become feasible for the people of Iran to actually be able to overthrow that government.
Yeah.
Trump has said that he tried to send weapons and they got intercepted. I don't know how true that is. I haven't drilled down into that story at all. I don't want to see a CIA operation. I think that's how we got here. But I do want to see the mullahs out of power permanently. And I think that the Iranian people have enough culture and pride in themselves to be able to pull that off in a way that the Afghanis, I'm not sure, have left in them. But the Iranians seem to. So.
Sure. So long as their own government aren't shooting them in the streets and, but sure. I think it's too early to tell. Like, it's been, 5-6 weeks since this all broke out. Yeah. And I think the constant weighing in every day isn't necessarily getting us any closer until we see something actually happen. I mean, we talked about Trump posturing and giving the ultimatums. At this point, I'm like, you've said you're going to block the strait, bloody block it. Just follow through. Yeah. Follow through with what you said. But
and the CIA will be there. Arklux is right. The CIA is going to be in there working overtime, as you say. That's absolutely correct. But we just need to remember largely speaking, broadly speaking, the history of the Middle East in the 20th century was foreign powers deciding where the political lines were going to get drawn and who the governments were going to be. And that's what got us here in the first place. And I think if we're going to get a long-term good result out of this, it has to come from the Iranian people themselves, which means, as awful as it is, Trump should not do anything more than put his foot on the scales.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the bloody work is going to have to be done by the people of Iran themselves inside Iran, and that's going to get really freaking ugly. But these are people that have already lost tens of thousands of their own people under IRGC repression. And when I mentioned the genocides earlier, someone jumped in the comments, "Oh, you believe all that crap about the government killing its own people?" Yes, I do, because I've actually spoken to people that have managed to get out of Iran, and I've spoken to people that have family in Iran, and I've gotten first or at worst secondhand accounts of what's happened. Yeah, absolutely, that's happened. And with that in their memories, I think when they get the opportunity, the reprisals will be pretty swift and pretty savage. All we've got to do is keep our foot on the scale for long enough that eventually that power shift becomes possible.
Not to be rude, but I am fading. I am exceedingly.
Wow. I tell you, kids these days, they've got no stamina.
I did not sleep very well last night. I'm very tired and I can't stop yawning and I feel really rude. I'm so sorry.
Oh, I'm so
tired.
Deeply offended. Well, look, we have been going for 2 hours, and I think that's a pretty good effort. Just a couple. I'm not sure if we've shown a few of these super chats. We have as much oil in the ground as Saudi Arabia. I actually haven't done a direct comparison, but on a per capita basis, I know that we are very, very well placed. And when you add gas, we've got vast amounts of gas. And then when you add coal, brown and black coal, brown coal for energy, black coal for coking, and so forth, like, we are very well positioned. It's absolutely absurd that we could run out of energy in this country. Is just the height of nonsense.
Sorry, anyway. I'm making everyone yawn. Sorry, guys. I'm trying so hard. I'm like, I can't.
We're going to wrap it up, but before we wrap it up, I'm just going to post in the link to get into the giveaway. You need to be in the Topher Project giveaway. The first birthday of the Topher Project has just happened. I went full-time in January of last year, but the Topher Project, as you see it, took shape in March of last year, and then April of last year was the first month when I really went for it. So this is the first birthday, and I'm doing a giveaway. So make sure you click the link in the description or go to topherfield.com. Make sure that all you got to do is join my email list. That's it. That's all you got to do. Join the email list. You will be in the running to be one of the winners. The first prize is worth over $1,000. There's $500 worth of gift cards, $250 towards fuel, $250 towards groceries. Then there's a bunch of merch, including a hoodie, which is going to come in handy because we're heading into winter now, along with other things, including a seat in the 2026 masterclass. So do head over to topherfield.com and do that. Carlz, take us out by talking about coffee.
Kofi. Guys, if you want to support the Oddcast, you liked what you saw, that's how you can directly support us. So scan that. You can sign up as an Oddie, or you can be a producer and tell us what to talk about on the show. And that is the best way to show your support. And also, don't forget, we have Tangent Time merch. So it's all available on Topher's website if you want the Tangent Time t-shirt.
Topherfield.com. Get yourself a Tangent Time t-shirt. And I didn't sing the song.
I was gonna say I'm very, very sorry. My energy was being, but alas,
Well,
I am only
As a result,
human.
I'm gonna blame you for the fact that we never got to the Tangent Time song today.
I didn't have
Devastating.
one. To be
Devastating.
fair,
Yeah,
we
well,
opened with a tangent,
we
so
kind of did, and I can't really just open the show with a Tangent Time song. Imagine the new viewers like, oh, I wonder what this is. Sit through the countdown and then straight into me singing Tangent Time. I don't think they're going to stick around.
No.
So yeah,
No.
probably
But
best not to open the show
imagine
with that.
how will we oddcast when I'm in China?
You're assuming they'll let you on the internet.
Well, I've got a VPN. That's fine.
Well,
but
sure,
I'm like,
sure.
am I playing a dangerous game? That's a legit question. I don't know.
Well, I have made the decision that I'm not going to try and get back into China in my lifetime for as long as it's a communist country because of stuff I've said online. And these days, with the power of AI, they don't exactly have to dig very hard to find anything that I've said online. So, yeah, I'm not going back to China. That's for sure. Good luck.
We're being accused of receiving money from the Jews in the chat, mate. I'm gonna say it one more time, just so you guys really understand it. If you think 7K is a lot of money for me to, like, for someone to control what I say, your bar is in the gutter. Like, can I just tell you, if someone were to try and bribe me, they better be bringing at least 8 figures. Like, come on. If you're going to extort me, make it good.
Carly, there's something we have to do. It's a tangent and it's funny and it's a great way to end the show.
Okay, can I close my eyes? Is that rude?
Okay. Okay. Is this going to do it for me? Okay, this one. Okay, yeah. Hold up. This is worth it. I promise you, this is worth it. Come on. I've got the tab. Will you just settle down, Carly? Give it a rest. This is worth it. I promise. I'm sharing the screen. I'm just pulling it up now. It's inside StreamYard. I'm putting it on the screen. No, get out of here. I'm putting it on the screen. Okay, guys.
I fell
Carly,
asleep.
They have come up with a way. So do you know this is a problem? North Koreans are passing themselves off as people that live in other countries and getting remote VA jobs in companies that don't want North Korea to have their information. This is such a big problem that recruiters have come up with a test to make sure that they're not recruiting someone from North Korea.
Right.
No, Kim Jong-un, the leader of North Korea.
Hang on, I got to get this back to the start.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to refresh the page and hope for the best.
I could have been asleep by now.
Go away.
What happened?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I just the network is issue. I think.
Okay.
But I just come back.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, I mean, I was in the process of saying, like, we get like a lot of imposter candidates, particularly North Koreans, like posing as like people that they're not. So one of the tests that we do is trying to get them to say something like Kim Jong-un is a fat ugly pig. Could you say that for me?
Xinjiang.
So no, Kim Jong-un, the leader of North Korea.
Yeah. I should say like that. Yeah.
Yeah. If you could, because it's one test so that I know that you're not North Korean.
Yeah.
You say it?
Poor bugger.
I'm going to go with no. He can't say that. He's gone.
Damn.
He's gone.
I really don't want to say it.
He's logged off. He's gone. He just literally quit the job interview because even saying that in order to pass that security test would probably get him into trouble, or at least he can't bring himself to say it. So there you go. That's a little something amusing for the end of the Oddcast, and just to make Carly stay up a little bit longer.
Gee, you better have that cup of tea ready. I tell you what, I am trying so hard. You know when you get to the point where you like start to do these ones? You're like, I'm almost there. I'm trying so hard.
You do that within minutes of starting a conversation with me. What are you talking about, Carly?
I know, but I normally am able to hide it. I can't hide my
Right.
yawns. I feel like my energy's been in the gutter. I'm sorry, guys.
So there's a new recruiting test. Anyone that wants to work for the Topher Project in future has to be able to say Anthony Albanese is a big fat pig.
I wouldn't call him fat. Call him something he is.
He used to be
Like
fat.
retarded.
To be fair, he went through a bit of a glow up when he knew he was going to be running for prime minister.
He did. He did. So did Dan Andrews. Have you guys ever Googled Dan Andrews when he was fat? I don't remember him when he was fat, but yeah.
I do.
Not
I
good.
do. Yeah. All righty, everybody.
He looks like
We're
James
getting out of
Packer,
here.
even though they
Yeah.
don't like each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right,
guys.
I'm
Thank
so
you.
sorry, guys. I will
We're
bring
out.
the energy on Wednesday.
See you Wednesday. Bye.